Welcome back, it's me, Lou. For today's video, we're going to talk about some custom action figures that I recently made, or they're kind of like, in all honesty, works in progress. They're not 100% finished just yet. For me right now, this is kind of more like proof of concept. I kind of wanted to see what I could get away with. Right, so right now, what we're looking at here, we're looking at some custom X-Men Reaver figures I'm working on. So, later this year, Hasbro is giving us a line of X-Men figures for the Marvel Legends line. And the Build-A-Figure for that is Bonebreaker right here. And Bonebreaker is like half cyborg, half tank. He's a member of a group known as the Reavers. And with Marvel Legends, they've already given us some of these characters. They've given us Lady Deathstrike. They've given us Skullbuster. And if you bought multiple Skullbusters, you can at least, through a head swap, make the character Reese. And if you got another Skullbuster, you can repaint the hair brown and make Macon right here. So for me right now, I kind of want to complete the entire team to the best of my ability. Like Pretty Boy and Donald Pierce are figures that haven't been announced yet. And I'm sure we'll probably get those much later. So for right now, it's like I kind of wanted to make a Wade Cole figure right here. So in order to do that, let's talk about the process. So here is the stock Skullbuster figure that we got in the Marvel Legends X-Men wave that featured the character. I believe the Build-A-Figure wave was for Caliban. Let me grab the box real quick. So here's the Skullbuster box, and he was for the Caliban wave. This came out way back in 2018. So if you got this figure, Skullbuster, you got this, and then it came with an additional head right here. And the additional head is meant to portray the Reaver Trooper Reese, which is this guy here. So there's the Reese head. Let's get this into focus. So yeah, there's the Reese head. So then if you bought two Skullbuster figures, you'd be able to make you'd have Skullbuster, which is this guy here, and with your second figure, you do the head swap. And then with through the head swap, you get Reese, that guy right there. And if you bought a third figure, you know, you take off the visor and you repaint the hair brown. And after you repaint the hair brown, you get Macon. But you're still missing the Reaver Trooper Cole. So for me, it's like I needed a Cole figure. So how was I gonna do that? So what I did, here's what I had to do to make Cole. And real quick before we get to, here's my Cole figure. But before we get into talking about him, let's talk about Skullbuster. So for me, I'm not completely happy with the stock Skullbuster just because it's mostly a reuse of the Deathlock figure that came out a few years ago. So here's the stock Skullbuster. And, you know, if you want to make Reese, you know, you swap out the head. But I didn't want to have 4 figures with all the same body. I could stomach having at least 2 or 3 of them having the same body, but I didn't want all of them to have the same body. So for me, it's kind of like, you know, since Reese, Cole, and Macon all have the bubble dome, I'm like, okay, let's at least give Skullbuster a new body. So I took off Skullbuster's head, and then I dug around my Marvel Legends trying to find a body I wouldn't mind using. And I had a spare Cable action figure right here. Now this is the Cable that's, this is the way he looked when he was illustrated by artist Ed McGuinness. Ed McGuinness is, you know, he used to be a gamer. I'm not sure if he still is, but he portrayed Cable in like armor that looked very much like the video game Gears of War. So Cable looked like he looked like a cog warrior. And I'm like, you know what, I'll just take that body because I'm not too fond of Cable looking like a character out of Gears of War. did a head swap, and I put Skullbuster's head on here. And then I added a metal bracer from, I think it's G.I. Joe Classified Series Gung Ho, just to make it look like he has more cybernetics. And then I had a spare shoulder pad from the Marvel Legends Build-A-Figure Odin. And I cut that in half, and I glued him onto here to give him, you know, a little bit more metal bits. So he looked a little bit more cyborgy. And it almost looks kind of stock. If you didn't know any better, you'd swear that these two shoulder pads came with a figure. So I glued those onto here, gave him the Skullbuster head, and this is essentially my take on Skullbuster. It's not accurate, but then again, neither is the actual Marvel Legends figure. So for me, this is my, you know, this is gonna be my Skullbuster figure. I might add some more paint application on him just to make him look a little bit more different. So yeah, there's my custom Skullbuster, and let's compare him with the stock one. So the stock one doesn't look too much like the real Skullbuster to begin with. Initially, Skullbuster has a black leather jacket. This one has a green one. You know, this is just making reuse of the Deathlock body. If, you know, when they first introduced Skullbuster, he almost looks like a T-800 from Terminator with like a leather jacket and a human head. So yeah, I just wanted to change up his look a little bit. I know mine's not accurate, but like I said, neither is this one. But the big deal for me was I needed a Cole figure. So, you know, once again, let's swap this head out and let's put on the Reese head. So I have Reese. I'm working on Cole right now. For me, Cole, I'm just gonna get another Skullbuster, take the visor off, and repaint the head brown. But I really wanted a Wade Cole Reaver figure right here. And as you can see, Wade Cole, you know, we have two white guys, one black guy. Cole's the black guy. So it's like, the challenge for me was I couldn't just take this. I mean, I could have taken this figure and just repainted it, but I'm not too keen on just repainting a figure. So I kind of wanted a figure that felt almost stock. So I went into my bin of like figures and stuff, and I had a spare Roadblock figure. This is the Cobra Island Target exclusive figure, and I'm like, you know what, this will be a great base body for trying to make Cole. You know, because it eliminates the need for me to like repaint the arm. I could do a head swap, and I could just throw the vest on him. The only issue is that he has this black shirt, and I could just easily just repaint that. I could have used this figure also, the standard classified release, the first release of Roadblock, but then I'd have to cut off the vest, and that's just, I didn't want to do that. Oh yeah, speaking of Reavers, a quick Reaver fix that a lot of people have talked about is just buying Gung Ho, doing a head swap, and just throwing the Reese head onto this. You know, just so it gives you a different body altogether. But I kind of want my Marvel Legends figure to be mostly Marvel Legends parts. I don't want it to be necessarily a modified G.I. Joe Classified figure. So, you know, for me, it's like this guy here, he's like 90% Marvel Legends, 10% G.I. Joe Classified. So, I'm like speaking a million miles a minute right now, so, or a million miles a second. So I'm probably going to lose you, so just bear with me right now. All right, so the deal was, okay, so I had the body for Wade Cole all set to go. You know, I'm going to use Roadblock's body, give him the Skullbuster arm, give him, so this from the upper thigh to the neck, that's all Roadblock. This is Marvel Legends. This hand is Marvel Legends. The legs here are the same legs taken from here because I wanted consistency across my three Reaver troopers. And then I repainted the shirt all black. And then the big issue was, how am I going to make the head? How am I going to make the head? So this is where it gets crazy. All right, so here is the spare head that you get with Skullbuster. And I'm like, I got to figure out how to make Cole's head, right? So let's take off the visor. And then here's the stock Reese head. It's all one solid piece of plastic. And then my crazy head was like, okay, what could I do to make Wade Cole? And then in my parts bin, I had a spare roadblock head, which was this one right here. And I'm like, okay, maybe I could take this head and mash it together with this head. How am I going to do that? So what I did was I went in and very carefully with an X-Acto knife, I took this figure right here, or this headpiece right here. I took an X-Acto knife and I sliced off his face and I sliced off the top of his head, and it left me with this. And then it still has the ball socket, and this socket fits perfectly in the roadblock body. It's like a exact match. The only thing is that it sits a little bit too high, but I could live with that. And then I'm like, okay, what am I going to do with my spare roadblock head so it fits onto here? So this is where it gets nuts. I'm like, I'm just going to take an X-Acto knife and very, very carefully, I'm going to cut the parts of the head that I don't need. So this is the roadblock head, and I cut off the back of his cranium and the side of his head, and I painted some hair on top of him. And then here is, so remember, we started off with this right here. This is what we started with. I cut off the face and the top of the head, and we ended up with this. And then I took the roadblock head, cut off what I didn't need, and ended up with this. And then now I can marry the two pieces together. Like that. I didn't glue it yet. I'm going to after I shoot the video. So essentially, I have Wade Cole. So there's my Wade Cole figure. And then all I have to do now is take this, the dome, and reattach it over the head. Let's get it on perfect. Just wait. It'd be easier if I glued the head in place, but I didn't want to glue it for the sake of the video because I wanted to show how it assembles and disassembles. I think that's about right. Did I get this on right? Yeah, so now I have my Wade Cole head right here. And then here's my Reese head. And I actually have a third figure on the way, and I'm just gonna repaint the hair brown on that, and then I'll have Macon. So I'll have essentially the three Reaver troopers: Cole, Reese, and Macon. And my camera does not want to focus on these guys. Yeah, so this is kind of a crazy video because I have to, like, I don't know, sometimes I speak faster than I think, or I think faster than I speak. I don't know, one of the two. But yeah, now I have 2/3 of my Reaver troopers. I have my custom Skullbuster. You know, even though it's the cable body, I don't care. You know, I changed it up enough, and I'm probably gonna repaint it a little just so it looks a little bit different. But yeah, for now I have my Reavers. So by the time Bonebreaker comes out, I'll have Lady Deathstrike, I'll have Cole, Reese, Macon, and Skullbuster. And maybe in the future, if I feel like I'm up to it, maybe I'll try making Donald Pierce and Pretty Boy. But for now, I'm just happy having, you know, this. This is good for me, you know. I feel pretty happy with these. They're not perfect by any means, you know. I'm not saying these are like the best things in the world. But for me, I just needed a placeholder because I don't know if Hasbro's ever going to give us like an actual fully dedicated Cole figure. I don't know if they're going to give us a fully dedicated Reese or Macon figure. So for now, this is good. You know, I'm happy, and I don't know. That pretty much sums it up. All right, so I apologize if I spoke too fast. I'm feeling a little bit manic right now. Today's a Sunday, and I have a lot to do today because I have work tomorrow, and I hate work. Alright, so let's wrap this video up. I hope your Sunday is going by well. Thanks for checking out this video. I appreciate it. So until the next video, be safe, take care of yourself, buy lots of toys, and most importantly, be happy. And I'll see you at the next one. All right, later.